Hello, and welcome to the Writer's Journey. Today, we have the one, the only, the Larry Correia, and I really hope I said that right. Welcome. And with me, I also have Steve Beaulieu, who is not Jaime Castle, and Walt Robillard joining me.
I have no alias.
He's just the Robillard.
No, but you have really awesome leet caps from like 1997 on your name.
And Lauren's not joining us. She's off doing family things. And that's okay, because family is number one. All right. Larry, thank you for joining us and all of the crazy that is probably about to be unloaded upon y'all.
Well, I am happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Right out of the gate, because I know Steve and Walt are burning with their own questions. So is the live audience. Thank you, live audience, for joining us really quick. I forgot to do that too. Patricia Gilliam, golf clap of the first comment in this. Corey Gilliam. I'm going to butcher this name. Malum. There we go. Let's see. There's also Beaulieu. Go down further for the new people. Sigma 6, thank you for joining us. Rick Cutler, Thomas Huddle, thank you all. Josh Hayes is in the chat. Kirk Suber. All right, Larry.
Before we start, can we just point out that last night I clicked on over the link to check out, like, if anybody had commented or anything like that. Sigma 6 has the golf clap of approval because he was there last night at like 8:30 at night.
I don't know if that counts.
Right, and I'm going to hop to left on that golf clap. Super earliness.
I mean, if that's the case, I'm just going to start commenting on everything that we do like weeks in advance and just all the golf claps.
I would have publicized this more, but I'm currently banned off of social media again. So
what? Jail again?
Yeah, I'm in jail again. As of 24 hours ago, I was back. I made it 2 whole weeks this time, which is pretty good for me.
I mean, I follow you, and I still don't quite understand why you get banned so much. Like,
continually. This is I think this is my 7th or 8th 30 day.
It's crazy.
I think it's his accounting advice.
Yeah, that's my unsolicited financial advice. That's the problem.
All right. So, other than getting Facebook banned, what does a day in your life look like, Larry?
Well, I've been a full-time writer for about 7 years now. I just I work from home. I set a pretty normal schedule. I get up in the morning, I go to work, I write write all day basically. I do basically an 8 to 5 kind of schedule, pretty normal. I've got kids. I've got kids in college, I've got kids in high school, so that kind of you have to be around for stuff. So I can't be one of those writers that writes at weird esoteric hours of the day or whatever. So I just have a normal schedule. I write about 2,000, 2,500 words a day is what I shoot for. I shoot for about 10,000 words a week. That goes way down if I'm editing. But that's basically what I go for. It's a pretty normal schedule. It's not crazy. And then I do travel a lot, though. I do normal years. I do a lot of tours. I do a lot of cons, that kind of thing. But this last year, no, it's mostly been sitting around the house typing.
Do you plot? Do you pants? Do you do something in between?
Oh, I'm an outliner. I'm not a super religious, hardcore outliner where, the outline is all, but I usually do a couple page outline for any given book. And if I come up with cooler ideas as I go, I'll tweak it. But overall, I usually have the beginning, middle, end. I've got all the character arcs, all the major character arcs usually planned out, everything I'm trying to accomplish. I got my bullet points and my to-do list. Then I go from there. But, when you get in the project, you start coming up with cooler ideas as you get to know people better. So I'm not hyper religious outlines, but I'm definitely an outliner. I do a lot of collaborative work. I've done a lot of collaborative novels, and those definitely are hyper outlined, just by the nature of having 2 people working on a manuscript at the same time. You have to. Yeah, so that's basically. I'm an outliner. My buddy Steve Diamond. We do a writing podcast together. He kills me if I say pantser. He prefers discovery writer.
We all have our idiosyncrasies and our words that we're afraid of. Writing into the dark, I hear it all the time. I call it onion writing.
You unfold the onion.
I go back, I do layers, I go back, I go, this worked, it didn't work, but it still worked, so let's just flesh it out. I've heard every time.
At the very end of every book I write, on the actual manuscript of the document, I always what's called the to-do list. That way I can Control F and go to-do list and go right to it. And the to-do list is all the stuff I think of as I'm working that I don't want to stop to correct at the time. And it's like, oh man, I totally screwed up this guy's motivations, or wow, it'd be cool if this happened, but I don't want to stop what I'm doing. So I flip down the to-do list, put a bullet point. That way at the end of the manuscript, I go back and fix all that crap.
That's not a bad idea, because mine just ends up being random ass comments through the entire manuscript. And I'm looking at this doesn't even line up. Where was it? Where was I when I wrote this?
Yeah, I don't really do the comments. Sometimes I'll we all have our little quick find trick. Mine is XXX. And anytime I'm like writing and it's like, I don't know what a guy's name is yet. I don't know what this town is named or this mountain is named. So rather than put the comments on the side, I just do to the Gulf of XXX. I'll come back to that later.
I do the same thing. I'm like, oh crap, mountain range. Well, you are now Mount A. I'm gonna name you later.
Now, is that how you came up with the P.U.F.F? Did you exit and then go back and figure it out later?
No, I had P.U.F.F. I had P.U.F.F. from the very beginning, just because I thought it was a fun acronym. Because it sounded like a sufficiently bureaucratic type long name, the Perpetual Unearthly Forces Fund, and the fact that made a cool acronym or funny acronym, and so that was in from the beginning. That wasn't one where I went back and fixed it. That was just cool. Stuck too. People love that. That's
and it's funny too, because when you're deployed, they hand you these packs of cards with like high value targets on them.
Yeah.
And I got a pack of cards because we were over there, and that's where I found your books. One of my guys was like, "Dude, you're into gun porn, dude. This is what you need. This is what you need." I'm like, "Monster Hunters. All right, I'll check it out." I was like, "Does he got a second book? Because yeah, so I need to, right? So, but like,
you got any more in them Correias, man?
Right? So he hands me, I get a pack of cards from a dude, and I'm like, "What are the numbers? Why are we putting numbers on them?" And they're like, "Dude, that's the P.U.F.F, like the amount for the P.U.F.F if you get them." And I'm like, "We lost it. It was great."
Yeah, I was the #1 best-selling author in Baghdad. So
it was, dude. Your book went around like syphilis in Shanghai. It was crazy. Like, dude,
those other 3 guys in Baghdad must be very upset. I'm only kidding.
Yeah,
no, I found that out at one point, and I got that from like the sales rep. Is like I was the best-selling author in the BX there, or the
pretty cool
AFI system for that, and I was like, all right, that's cool, man. That's awesome. Tells you a lot about my fan base.
Yeah.
Well, you bring much joy to those of us who love guns and the fun of guns. So it's appreciated. It's very appreciated.
There's my people.
So pulling from the chat, I'm just scrolling up. First question I found. So if there's any before this one, I'm sorry, I'll try and find it. Rick Cutler wants to know, Larry, is it true you once told Indiana Jones, "Don't waste your time, just shoot him"?
No, that predates me by quite a bit. I'm 46 years old, so I'm pretty sure that predates my writing career by a couple decades. And awesome scene, though. I mean, come on, man. That was just one of the greatest scenes ever. And we all know the story.
Yep.
Yeah, he had diarrhea.
Since you mentioned,
hot. I don't want to fight this guy.
Pow.
Yeah.
Since you did mention the predating of that, there's a question here that I think probably fits really well. If you could give advice to your younger self just starting out writing, what would it be?
Buy Bitcoin.
No, it's not true. I read a guy. He said if I bought Bitcoin at 700, I would have made $630. Right? It's like everyone freaked out at that point. But yeah.
I really not okay. I'll answer the question in a second, but I really do know a guy in real life who, this is a true story. Many years ago, paid for he bought a large pizza with 1 Bitcoin. Going back in time, you can tell your younger people stuff. Honestly, I don't know, because my writing career has gone really well. I don't know what I would tell my younger self as far as writing stuff, because a lot of this stuff is organic. You learn it as you go. I mean, we all got advice starting out that I'm sure was really good advice, but we didn't know what we didn't know to incorporate it, And luckily for me, the best writing advice I ever got when I was starting out, I actually heeded. I listened to it. When I think I had like 2 books out, maybe 2 or 3 books. I was pretty new. And Kevin J. Anderson told me, we were at an event. He was like the big mega dude, and I was just some little minor guy. And we were on a thing, and he knew I was starting out. And he told me, best advice I could ever give anybody in your position is be prolific. Just write a lot. The more you write, the more chances you'll have to make something really awesome. And I took that to heart, and I've worked nonstop ever since. I've never really had like a doldrums or a lull or anything. I just keep producing. And I think that's what I owe my success to is that. That's the best advice I got, and I actually did take it. So I don't know. I mean, I can make flippant jokes about, buy Bitcoin and whatnot, but writing advice? Gosh, I don't know. It's I mean, if I could go back to when I was like a little kid, I would have told myself, cash in on Scottish time travel romance. It's going to be huge.
Believe me, just do it. No, but that actually really is good advice, because the more you write, the more you understand your own author voice, the more you understand your own process, and and not just the same story. You got to move on to new stories. The more stories you write, the better you're going to get at it.
Absolutely. We all do the thing too, like when we're starting out, where we do the polish the turd thing, where we write a thing and then we just polish and polish and polish and polish and polish.
It's nice and shiny and smell good.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, eventually that one thing is gonna be really good, but then once you sell that, you got to do something else, and they're gonna expect it in 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
Not the 6 years you gave yourself for the first project. So, for the vast majority of us who don't strike gold, and don't get the big mega hit on one book, we got to keep going. Some guys get the big mega hit and they can just coast, but that's like winning the lottery. That almost never happens. You can count on your fingers the authors that happens to.
And it really doesn't have anything to do with how good the book you wrote is anyway. So,
some of those are not good, but
they
just have an audience.
They just hit.
I'm not going to bag on them.
Nope, no bagging. Just in general, of polishing the turd. I mean, there comes a point where what you're doing is just elevating your own opinion of what's good, and in reality, that's not necessarily going to translate across your fandom. So at some point, you go, "This turd is clean enough," and you have to move on.
Yeah, for me, it's every 6 months. This turd's looking pretty good.
Yep. Get rid of it.
This question popped up in chat.
Oh, people always ask, they're like, what's your favorite book and what's your least favorite book? And my answer to that is always the same. It's like, whatever book I'm currently working on is my least favorite book, and whatever I just sent out the door is my favorite.
That's funny.
That's a good answer. All right, Rick Cutler in the chat. How long is your red shirt list? Because I know this is something that pops up a lot in indie authors. Yeah. When do you think it will open up again?
Oh gosh, I think I'm down to so a little background for people who don't know is I do charity red shirtings where we'll pick a good cause. The first time we paid for a kidney transplant. The second time we paid for spinal surgery. And so what we do is I will go out and I'll take money from people. I'll get your names, a little bit of information about you, then try to use you in a book. I can't promise anything. You might just show up for one sentence and get run over by a truck. That has happened. Literally, I had one guy, his character showed up and just got hit by a snowplow. Like, seriously, like one line. Others have wound up being major characters. It's just how it works out. Last time the spinal surgery, I think I had close to 300 names that I had to get through. And so that's taken me I think it's been 5 years that I've been working on that. I'm down to my last, I want to say 20, 25 names. And so once those are through, I will be able to pick another charity thing and do another one. So we will be doing that again. My problem was during this time period, I wrote 3 books in a fantasy setting where every name is Indian, and I had like one Indian name on the charity register list. So that didn't. I couldn't, stick Chris. I couldn't stick Chris Smith. Plus, what is with all the dudes named Chris? So I get my all these hundreds of names. There's like 42 dudes named Chris. Chris Jones, Chris Smith, Chris Johnson. And it's like, oh, come on, guys. How many Chris's do you expect me to squeeze into a novel?
All of them.
Those had to be 90s kids.
Yeah, they're all the 90s kids.
Because at that point, like, all the parents were lazy. They were smoking pot, and they're like, well, if it's a boy, Chris. If it's a girl, Chris.
Or Brittany. All the Brittany's.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Chris, Justin, and Matt. I think I knew more Chris, Justins, and Matts than anyone on the entire planet.
So that's the downside of the charity redshirting list thing. And it's funny because I was telling this story. I was actually telling this story at a book signing, and one of the women was in the audience, and she is Indian, and she goes, oh shoot, I gave you my American name. I was like, come on, you can jump in line.
Give me the fun name, man. All right.
Yeah, everybody on there with a really if you have like a mafia sounding name, you're already in the book. I mean, guaranteed.
Let me know. I got cousins that straight off the boat. We'll hook you up.
Yeah. So
Frankie Avalon is my family. My entire family is the Avalone mob. So I won't say that publicly or anything, but
probably 1 or 2 more books with English names, and I'll be there.
All right, so we did have a question about you getting writer's block, but you did mention that you've never really faced that, so I'm going to skip over it.
Well, I actually have a philosophy on writer's block.
Ooh, there we go.
Lie.
Do that.
Writer's block is a filthy lie. That's going to be my controversial thing that I'm going to say today. And here's what I mean. It does exist in a way that, we just don't feel like it. We're tired. We're bored. We're hungry. We want to go play video games instead. That's fine. We're all human. But I don't like when people give writers give this writer's block as like it's this magical thing. Like my muse doesn't move me. Well, too damn bad. It's your job. And I always said that because I used to be an accountant. That's my career before I did this. That was my last real job. And I couldn't have accountant's block. I'd get fired in a heartbeat. I worked for the Air Force. I'd be like, I don't feel like doing these spreadsheets today. And they'd be like, oh, great. Bye.
Find someone who does.
Get out.
Well, the reality is they don't have to be the best words. They've just got to be words. You just got to get through. And I agree. I've never had writer's block.
I tell people, just be honest with yourself. If you're just being lazy or bored, or if you're stuck on a scene and don't know what to do next, that's fine. Go back and edit something, or skip to the next scene that you do know what's going to happen, or take a break from this novel and go write a short story in an entirely different universe.
Yep.
Or just be honest with yourself that you're not going to work today and go play Call of Duty or World of Tanks. It's okay.
Give yourself the time if you need the time to rest, because I can tell you, burnout is so hard to get out of.
I just see all these young writers, though, and I say young, but not always young, but just less experienced writers, and they always do this to themselves, where they impose this magic upon themselves, where if I'm not in the magical zone of muses and crap, I can't create my art. I was like, dude, you're just setting yourself up for failure. If you believe that stuff, you are going down a path of ruin. You are setting yourself up to just fail.
I've got no issue with Stephen King. I love Stephen King, but we all get hooked on reading his book, on writing. And he's got that one line in there where he's like, the only day I don't write is Christmas. And if it takes you this long to do that, then and there's all these like weird rules that we try to get from even these kinds of questions that we ask guys like you. Your answers are not always going to be the only answers to the problem. But like everything you said about writer's block is so accurate, because there's never a time when you can't just go, I'm going to write something else completely. I just need to get my mind anywhere other than right here. And I'm going to write Scottish Highland romance, and then you throw it out. You probably never look at it again, but it got you through the nonsense, and you can get back to writing what you're supposed to be writing.
Yeah. On the writing thing, a lot of people, and to be fair, King doesn't do this. I mean, but a lot of writing advice is like, it's my way or the highway. This is how you have to do it. This is the rules of writing. That's crap. We all do this different. We're artists. We're creatives. You got to do what you got to do to make it work. And so for me, what I do is not necessarily the one true path. And I've always discovered, too, that the less someone has actually accomplished in their writing career, the more adamant that they are that that's the one way to do it.
Right.
Whereas those of us who've just been doing this for years and it's our job, we're like, whatever works. What makes you happy? Go do that.
I love the days where I write 500 words and then I go, let's just play Minecraft with my kid. Like, my goal's always 2,500, 2,000, whatever. But like, if it's not happening,
yep,
I'm going to be so much more effective just chilling with my 7-year-old playing Minecraft than trying to,
Well, yeah. Like my 10,000 word week did not happen this week because I had 2 football games and a podcast and some other stuff that went on. And so I'm nowhere near it. I mean, and so I could beat myself up about it, or I could just move on with life and enjoy watching my kids play football.
I agree.
I love this line from Corey Gilliam here. Jim Butcher said, "I don't have a muse, I have a mortgage."
Dang.
Right?
Yeah, quick note on Jim. Jim is probably the single coolest dude in the writing business. I love Jim Butcher. I got a man crush on Jim Butcher.
Me too.
Jim is a stud. He is a good dude.
Love him.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Joshua Smith is wondering, how is the progress on the second Grimoire trilogy? Favorite series of mine so far?
That one I am have not actually started the actual writing process yet. I got the loose outline for the trilogy. So that's one so the first trilogy is done. That one I am just basically got to get through a couple other books that are in line ahead of it so I can start it. So as far as what's the date on those, I don't know. So I just wrapped up had a Monster Hunter novel come out. I've got another collaborative Monster Hunter novel. And then I've got this one, Jason Cordova, that's in the queue next. I am currently wrapping up a book called Servants of War with Steve Diamond, which is a World War I kind of trench fantasy. And that one's almost done. And then I got to talk to Tony Weisskopf, my publisher at Baen, and see what she wants me to do next. I think I need to do the 4th book in the Son of the Black Sword, the Saga of the Forgotten Warrior. I think that's going to come first, then that, I believe. So I think she wants me to wrap up one of the series before starting the next one, I believe. But then again, I also kind of ended the last Monster Hunter on a really like I don't want to say it's not quite a full cliffhanger, but it's definitely like poised for the next adventure. And so I got everybody beating my door down on that too. That's the downside of when you write in like this many different series.
Well, Joshua Smith says in progress and on the waiting list works for me. So it's in there.
Progress and on the waiting list. Well, the thing is too, I've never left you guys hanging too long on any one series because I like bouncing between different series because I never get bored. I never ever get bored. I never have the problem where I write a series and I write myself into a corner because I stop and I go write in a different series and then a different series and then I come back to that one. By the time I come back to it, I'm fresh. I'm excited. So I've not had a dud. I've not had like a dud yet. Knock on wood. It's been happening to all of us. But I have avoided that for 25 books now because I just because I jump back and forth. But I try not to leave you guys hanging for more than a couple years on any one series. I mean, I have to be fair, I've only written 22 books since George Martin's last one has come out. So I mean, I could do better.
That's awesome.
You do have the benefit of writing in the traditional market where that works. If you were in the indie market trying to do 4 series, nobody would even read them because they'd be so pissed off that you haven't finished one. Yeah. And I don't say that to be negative. I mean, you have a great thing going in your ability to do that.
Yeah. So. If I was writing in the indie market, that's how I started out with self-publishing. and definitely what the rate of speed that people expect for indie published series is totally different than what they grant for traditional published. Traditional published, they're trained that a fast series is 1.5 to 2 years per book.
We get a month. We get a month and a half. Month and a half between books.
Month and a half. Oh, geez, what's the word count on those?
About 100,000. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's so the rapid release is anywhere between 1 month and 3 months, and it's because Amazon won't let you do anything else. They won't help you push anything that's not done within that time period. I've got a traditional deal that's my books are a year apart, and it's beautiful. It's glorious. I don't have to think about I don't have to write 6 1 million word epic fantasy and then release it. Right? I mean, like. Yeah. So it's definitely a big difference between the two.
Absolutely. That's a brutal schedule to make that. And if I was doing that, I would write 1 series.
Yeah. No, of course you don't write them, and then you don't release 1 until all 3 are done, right? Like you just don't.
No. So you probably basically crank out the entire thing and then have a release schedule. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense than trying to stay ahead of that. I'm lucky in that I can be creative, and if I have if I got a year, and if I have a better idea during that year, I go back and I revamp my plans,
right?
And I can grow it organically. Plus I can listen to feedback, and I can see what the audience likes, what the audience doesn't like, and if everybody hated something, this hasn't happened. But theoretically, if everybody hates something, I can change it. I want to come back to the next book, not do the thing they hated.
Well, there is a beauty to being able to, at book 3, go, oh, this would be way better in book 1. Let me go fix it.
Yeah.
And there's nobody that's going to argue with it, right? Because they haven't read it yet. Maybe your beta team.
Well, the other thing, too, is if I had to do it that way, Monster Hunter would already be done. Because my original plan for Monster Hunter was 5 books. I had a 5-book story arc. But then I started doing the spin-off books as I went with other characters to expand the universe. If I had been forced by Amazon to do 5 and done, but the fact is Monster Hunter is now 8 regular, 3 spin-offs, and a collection of short stories. It's huge. It's gotten gigantic.
Yeah.
With multiple 3 other authors now writing novels in it, and multiple people on short stories. And so if I had been forced to do that up front, it would have just been 5 and done. So it would have been way smaller.
Well, luckily you get things like, with Rick Partlow in the Drop Trooper series, like, he got to book 5 or 6 and it's a hit. I mean, the thing's viral, it's massive. And so we just said, take your time, write your next book.
I'm really excited for Rick. He worked for the Dragon Award, both in sci-fi, and I think, was that tomorrow?
Yes, he's there now, and of course we're rooting for him. It's our book, so.
Oh yeah, no. And the thing is, I've won, and so if Rick wins, awesome. Cool. I mean, I'm excited for him. I mean, I hope.
I'm so thrilled for him. He's such a great writer. He's prolific. This is book 4 of the series that he's nominated for right now, and it's like, it's just a dynamite series, and so I'm thrilled for him. And then we've got Lou Diamond Phillips. He's up for one too. He's one of our authors as well.
Oh,
so we're reading.
Lou Diamond Phillips is all. I'm a huge Longmire fan.
Yeah. Yeah, Lou wrote a book for us called it's based on Hans Christian Andersen's The Tinderbox, and he's nominated for a young adult award in Dragons, and we'll be thrilled if they both win it. That'll be freaking fantastic.
That would be awesome. Yeah, no, Rick. I only know him from online, but yeah, so no, that's great. And actually, that category is filled with really good writers. And I've been telling my fans, you don't need to nominate me for Dragon Awards. I've won. I'm good. I'm happy to share the love with other writers. Except this is a collaborative novel, so I'm up for it with John Brown.
Yeah.
And I can't be like, yeah, don't nominate me.
We don't need this.
Yeah. It's like give him a chance. John Brown would be like, well, what the hell, man?
So on the note of the Monster Hunter and this like giant thing that has become, Rick Cutler does want to know, will Owen and Julie's kids ever have their own stories in the MHI universe?
I can neither confirm nor deny the possibility that will happen. Obviously, they're really young, and so that won't be until later. And obviously, we would wrap up the main series with their dad as the main protagonist narrator before that. But no plans as of this minute. That's it. I should totally do a spin-off young adult series. There's like way more money in that.
You're not lying.
Expand the genre base. Yeah, do it.
Yeah, man. Young adult books plus they make more money and they're smaller.
Change your name to Lauren, and you'll really hit the young adult market.
Oh, that's what I need to do. Yeah, actually, that's a good idea.
Could you imagine what those interviews would be like?
I do actually around here somewhere I have my heavy metal wig. I could totally rock that. There's a picture of me somewhere on the internet wearing it. It's kind of funny. Or I'm just doing the big hair metal wig, and it was kind of awesome. I could find that. I could make that work. I can do that.
Let's do it.
All right, coming down the line here because the chat's just blowing up with questions, so I'm trying to hit as many as I can. The next one was Rick Cutler again. Larry, you've mentioned the convention panel where you got cut off when answering what is high fantasy. His question is, what are the elements of high fantasy?
Well, it was okay. So where this comes from was many years ago. I was a noob, and I was at a panel at LTUE in Utah, and I was the new guy, but I was on a panel with a bunch of badasses, and it was Brandon Sanderson, Dave Wolverton, who writes as Dave Farland, and Lee Modisette. So 3 bad Mamba Jamba bestsellers. 2 of them have been doing this longer than I'm alive, and then Brandon is huge, and I was just a new guy. I think I had like a book out or 2 books out. It was mostly college students, the audience, right? And just one college student had a question, and what are the elements of high fantasy? I believe was the question. I'm trying to remember, but Rick probably remembers better than I do. He probably read the blog post from back then. And it's epic. There was a question about okay. And so I had a really good answer. That was not the question. The question was something different. But I can't remember what it was, but I had a really good answer. I started to answer. The college student cuts me off. He shushes me, and he goes, "No, you're just an urban fantasy author. I want to hear what the epic fantasy authors have to say."
Oh,
and I was like,
not nice.
You little, and I mean, it's a podcast live. I probably shouldn't say the words that actually came into my mind. And so I was pissed, right? And so I sat down, I was like, and then they answered. And then afterwards, I was like, well, I'm going to show you, anonymous little college student piece of crap. And so I grabbed Brandon Sanderson and the other 2 guys, Lee, and before they ran off, I was like, guys, what are the rules? What is an epic fantasy? And they're like, well, I was like, I'm going to write one to shut this guy up.
Fantasy out of spite.
And it turned into Hard Magic, which is funny because it turned into an alternate history 1930s gangster superhero saga. But if you look at the plot of Hard Magic, it is actually an epic fantasy. You got your big cast of characters, world-shattering events, big plot, very depth, magic system with rules, a lot of world building. All the traditional epic fantasy stuff was Hard Magic. But I brainstormed that on the drive home with Mike Cooper. He was a good friend of mine. We were driving back, and I brainstormed the plot of Hard Magic, but it was an epic fantasy setting. Got home, my son was reading Noir Spider-Man, and I looked at the cover, and it was this really cool shot. He's in a fedora. He's got a Webley revolver in a shoulder holster and a trench coat, but a Spider-Man. And I saw that, and I was like, dang, that era was super cool. And Mike looks at me and goes, yeah, back when men wore hats. I go, yeah, and they had Zeppelins. And we looked at each other, and I was like, I know what the novel is now. And I immediately went and wrote it. That's where Hard Magic came from. Best-selling novel, done really good. Trilogy, very popular. But yeah, so that's where that came from. I don't even remember the question. I do not know who shushed me. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup here 10 years later. But yeah, no, that was my trilogy written entirely out of spite. and I probably can't. I can't because the studio has not made an official press release, but I can just tease the fact that I have sold the rights to Hard Magic to be a television show to a major Hollywood studio. So, which is like a big famous one. And I can't say anything else on that. I'll just leave it vague because they have not done the press release to the trades yet. So contracts are signed.
So what is your Gosh, now I my brain. Fantasy, high fantasy markers. Where's the thing?
For me,
save me my brain.
Which is funny because then a couple years after that, I did Son of the Black Sword, which would be more a traditional thing, a thing that would be traditionally filed into that category. I am probably the worst person to ask about genre rules because I'm such a violator of them. Yeah, I'm like the worst, honestly. Like you put me on panels and it's like a panel about a genre, and inevitably you'll start out and the first panelist will be like some professor, and they'll be like, well, the rules of this genre is it must be this, 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 and this. And I'll be like, okay, I write in this genre and I violate all those. So I'm like the last guy. But to me, when I think of like that kind of fantasy, well, right off the gate, big thing I violate too is pacing, because a lot of those tend to be more languid in their pacing. They tend to be very big, kind of but slower, if you will. That's why you tend to have your 300,000 word, 1,000-page long doorstopper novels. I actually got a criticism for Son of the Black Sword. Was I really like this? This is one of the best fantasies I've ever read, but it's plotted more like a thriller. It's very fast paced, and I was like,
good.
You're like, cool.
Thank you. Exactly, I don't need to know the color of every flower on every hill. So
yeah, if I ever get to the point where, like, if you're reading one of my novels and there's like a page of filler where I'm describing dinner, like what they're eating for dinner, like this is how they cook the rabbit, know that I probably had a stroke or I've been kidnapped, and this is my call for help.
Look for me in the countryside.
You know what the most fun part of all writing is, right? Following rules. It's so much fun to follow rules.
It's so soothing.
It is.
Honestly, I say once you understand what people expect from a genre, so it's like you need to have this, that, and the other thing in a high fantasy. Once you like really understand that, you get it, now you can break it because you know how to break it because you understand how it works. So
yeah, I mean you gotta know the market, you gotta know what the customers are expecting. And if you violate everything in a way that's not fun and cool, then they're just gonna hate you for it. But if you take that stuff and you tweak it, like I tweak all this stuff for urban fantasy too with Monster Hunter. And I've tossed a lot of the stuff that's expected on that on its ear and just kind of had fun with it, and it's the same kind of thing. I mean, heck, I did my thriller series and we even stuck some little elements of like crazy paranormal stuff off to the side and didn't say anything about it. Drew no attention to it whatsoever. And it's straight up like a military thriller. But there's like weird Lovecraftian crap going down in the background.
See, and that's what makes writing fun.
All right, absolutely.
Sir Brass in the chat's wondering, what bands were in your mind when you thought up Cabbage Point Killing Machine?
Oh, okay. This is actually kind of fun. So when I started writing Monster Hunter, actually one of my accounting jobs many years ago is I worked at I won't name the company because it was a horrible mega corporation to work for. But my division of this mega corporation, we built guitar pedals, and soundboards, microphone bits, stuff like that. But basically like big high-end concert equipment. And I worked at this company and it sucked. It was a horrible place to work. And the mega corporation that owned my company was even worse. However, the perk of my job is I got to meet a ton of musicians and I got to go to concerts because we'd get like, we get like discounted concert passes or we get free passes. Or a lot of times we get to meet the musicians would come in and they would like tour the factory or whatever. So for a while there, I got to go to quite a few concerts, but actually the biggest single one, because at the time they were the coolest live show or the funnest live show I'd seen, was probably Disturbed. I'm a Disturbed fan, and got to see them live for the first time right about when I first started plotting Monster Hunter. So when I had the character of Owen's brother, that would probably be the single biggest influence. Would be Disturbed, to be honest. Those guys.
Jump in. I played 3 shows with Disturbed back in 2008 or so.
Cool.
So I'll throw that out. Disturbed, Slipknot, and then I'll also say
name dropper.
I'm gonna name drop, and then I'm also gonna say, come on, man, you worked for Boss. You could tell us you just worked for Boss.
I worked for
Harmon. All right.
Digitech, Dodd, DBX, Allen and Heath.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah. No. Good guess though. Good guess. Yeah. No, I did. It was. You know what? I've been gone a long time. I can talk to us. It was horrible. It was a horrible place to work.
Can imagine. Yeah.
But I did get to send royalty checks though to Dan Donegan. You know, so for letting us make his pedals.
Yep. Here, have things and money.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So no, that was cool. I did get to meet a lot of cool people that way though. But yeah, I actually crashed into Scott Ian from Anthrax and almost knocked him down one time. I didn't, and it was on accident. I'm a big guy. I was in a hurry. I had like all this paperwork. I was trying to like run it from one place to another. I was running around the corner, and I crashed into this little dude.
You had the actual moment where.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't knock him down, but I definitely very rudely ran into this guy, and I was apologetic. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I looked at the dude, and I was like, "Oh shit, you're Scott Ian." And I'm just some poor little accountant, 6'5", 300-pound accountant, and he looks at me and goes, "Yes, I am. Nice to meet you." And he just kept doing his thing, and I plowed into Scott Ian. So that was my crash with Anthrax there.
Wow.
Needless to say, you weren't carrying the Tetsubo when that was going on, right?
No. Luckily, it was just it was like some binders and a whole bunch of tax paperwork. So, but yeah.
The fact that you have a Tetsubo / Kanabo, it just that is just crazy.
Yeah, it's actually right over there. I got my Tetsubo. All right, you want? I'll grab it. Hang on one second.
Oh, grab that!
Yes, we love showing blades.
Oh no, this isn't a blade. This is a club.
Oh, club.
So it's a Japanese iron or steel studded club.
Ooh.
They used to use it to unseat horsemen by breaking horses' knees.
This is
goodness. Yeah, that looks dangerous.
You can see.
Oh, it's a rain stick.
Oh yeah.
I used to play one of those in 4th grade.
Yeah, this thing is absurdly heavy. And because I got the biggest one that they make too, because
that's
how
dope.
did you do?
But that said, I am actually not strong enough to use this effectively. I would get hurt if I tried. I know one dude though, Pat Tracy, who's a writer and also an award-winning poet, believe it or not. But Pat used to do strongman competitions. And so I was, dinking around one day in my office and swinging this thing around, and Pat's like, "Oh, let me see that." Pat takes it one-handed and starts using it like I was two-handed without destroying my rotator cuff.
Holy crap!
But yeah, no, this thing is like 16 pounds of studded death.
That is great. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten to actually whack into something with it?
I've smashed some watermelons with it and some cantaloupes.
Nice.
Which is pretty bitchin', and it's awesome. Yeah, it just obliterates them.
Now
the problem is, you actually try to use this on a person. If you miss, you're gonna die.
Oh yeah. He's
you
gonna
got one shot, and by the time you recover, you're dead. So you better hit him. But yeah,
now,
it's pretty cool.
What's more satisfying, watermelons with that or watermelons with a 45 ACP?
Actually, because the 45 ACP on a watermelon just kind of goes, a little 12 gauge on a watermelon is pretty cool. We used to do a shoot thing. We used to do this machine gun shoot, but with the inaugural first shot of the machine gun shoot was always we would huck a watermelon in the air and have one guy blast with a shotgun to open, and it would just that was like the opening moment. We always did that. I used to have some more stuff in my office as far as edged weapons, but I actually put those away because I had to do last year we had to do a quick run to the emergency room because one of my kids decided to play with one of Dad's tomahawks.
Lovely.
Yeah, and it was an RMJ tomahawk, and if you're familiar with those, oh hey, you know exactly. That's perfect. I didn't even see the hat. Okay, you can shave with these. All right,
which one was it? I have a Kestrel.
Actually, it was my Kestrel because the Kestrel is the one with the big murder spike on the back. Yeah, and what it was, to be fair to my son, he's not an idiot. He's a very smart kid, and he's got knives and guns and stuff. But it was an Kydex sheath, and instead of just going pop, he was actually fiddling with it, trying to wiggle it out, and it just went. I don't know actually how he did it, but he lit his thumb up from here to here, and it just went. And he's cool. My son is tough, right? He's a tough kid, right? And so he's like, Dad, I think I got a problem.
I got a little bit of a scratch.
You know, and I'm first aid trained and stuff, and I'm kind of chill. And I was like, all right, let's take a look and let's go in the bathroom and we turn the sink on, and I don't realize how bad he's hit it. And he runs the water on it, and his thumb is open, like just opens like a fillet of fish, right? And I was like, okay, we're gonna go to the emergency room right now.
Good Lord.
How many was it?
16 stitches.
Right.
So he thereby beat his dad's record, because my record all-time stitches was 15 in one incident. So he beat me by 1.
I had like 7. No, I had 13 in my eye when I was a kid.
Oh, ouch. 13 in the eye.
Yeah, it was. You can see my scar. It's right here. But okay, so on from epic injuries. Alfred Renfro, are you planning any other high fantasy works after Son of the Black Sword series?
I've got ideas for some stuff, but nothing under contract at this time in that same kind of genre.
I'll send you a contract after.
Oh man, I owe Tony Weisskopf so many books. Don't even. Yeah, no, I'm safe. Oh no. So the Son of the Black Sword, I'm 3 books into that. There's 5 books total. There's 2 more books after this, and the series is done. After that, though, as far as in that same type of genre, I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do next. I've got some other stuff in the queue ahead that are under contract that I get done. I think I've got like 16 books under contract right now. So I've
Good Lord, man.
Yeah, no, it's a
so
good
maybe
problem, if I don't start anything new, I'm good for like the next 6 or 7 years. That said, I do have some stuff that I want. I at some point I will have written a book in every single genre that I enjoy reading. It's kind of like a goal of mine, and so there's still a few that I haven't done yet that I would like to try.
Scottish Highland romance.
Yeah, Scottish time travel romance. Got to get
time travel romance.
That's what puts it over the top. I joke about this. Diana Gabaldon seems like a really nice lady, and she makes more money than all of us put together times 10. That's a huge work. So no plans for that at this time. I've got a new genre thing that I'm trying. The first attempted sci-fi gritty cop show will be out in October on Audible. I did Lost Planet Homicide, so I'm trying that genre. So basically, police procedural gritty cop show, but it's sci-fi. But I do have ideas for more epic fantasy stuff. I have a dark fantasy series starting. Servants of War is the first one for that. That will be out in May, and it's kind of like that world is kind of a dark fairy tale magic world, but it's the equivalent to like Eastern Europe, World War I era. The way Steve, my co-author, described it was 1917 meets The Witcher kind of vibe. And so that's sort of fantasy, but I wouldn't call that, necessarily. It's more of a gritty fantasy, but we'll see. And it's kind of also very dark. It's probably the darkest thing I've written because I teamed up with a guy who's a horror novelist. Steve's a horror writer primarily, and so there's that. But then after that, there is some stuff I would like to do, but no plans as of this minute. So I'll get there.
On that frame of thinking, Andrew Milbourne, you've mentioned that Louis L'Amour is one of your literary influences. Any plans to write a Western?
Not currently at this time, but yes, actually, that is one genre that I really want to do. I grew up on Westerns. The single most influential writer in my life, of my young life when I was a kid, was Louis L'Amour. Because you understand, I come from a background where books were not exactly appreciated. My dad was illiterate. I come from a little poor farming background, little town, and books were kind of looked upon as like a wussy activity. Like there's a good way to get your butt kicked with by being literate. However, when I was little, the one type of books that got a pass were Westerns. I didn't get teased for reading Westerns, and my dad thought it was cool I was reading Westerns because Westerns were manly. And he loved to watch. He loved, like I said, he didn't read, but he loved to watch Westerns, movies and TV. And so I could read Louis L'Amour, no problem. And you could get the little Louis L'Amour novels for cheap at the local grocery store. And so I still have like 100 of them here in my office. And so at some point I will write a Western. I don't know when. And I have actually done some Western stuff, but it's all been like Monster Hunter. So it's been Western with fantasy monster elements. So will I ever do a Monster Hunter Western? Yes, definitely. Because I do want to do the Bubba Shackelford story. Yeah. Bubba is very fun. And so that will happen, guaranteed, because I love Bubba. However, pure Western, like a straight up Western story with no magic, yeah, actually, I really want to. And I know exactly the story I would tell. But no plan as of yet. So.
Am I allowed to be entirely focused on me for 1 second?
No.
Larry,
okay.
Larry, is there any chance you listen to Dead Acre on Audible Originals?
No.
Can I suggest it? It's my big series. It's the Blackstone Publishing series, and Roger Clark, the narrator from Red Dead Redemption 2, is our narrator.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I would literally beg you to listen to it and let me know what you think. Well, 3.5 hours long.
Because I listen to audiobooks way more than I read now. So what is the title?
Free on Audible Plus. Dead Acre.
Dead Acre. Okay.
Yeah, cool. It's got a badass looking Western man with a black cap on.
Seriously,
it's The Witcher meets Harry Dresden in the Wild West. So
all right. I've got an Audible membership. I will throw that on the queue.
You'll be my hero. I mean, I'd love to hear what you think.
Okay.
You and Jim are my pinnacle to help us launch this series. Cool. So I'll just leave it at that. Well,
it's funny because the thing that's in line ahead of you is actually Jim, because I have not listened to the last. I gotta read the last 3. I'm behind, so I'm not caught up on my Dresden. But yeah, no, I'm down. Okay,
thank you.
I'm a sucker for that stuff.
I think you'll love it. I think you will. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Awesome. Dead Acre. Okay, I'll throw that on the queue. Cool. Right. That's what I do. Is when I paint minis, I listen to audiobooks. Either that, or I listen to podcasts or whatever, or things I'll put on that. Actually, my kids are all teasing me because the thing that I've been listening to lately is the Missing 411 podcast, the Can-Am project. You guys know those?
Yeah.
As a guy who writes creepy monster stuff, that is gold. But it also scares I live out in the country, right? And the woods country is right over there, And so all this missing people stuff, and now my wife will go on a hike, and I'll be like, take a gun, take a locator, take witnesses.
That's funny.
All right. As we come down to the last 5 minutes of the hour, if anyone out there in the chat has last-minute questions, shoot them out. We'll get as many as we can. In the meantime, speed round. In the meantime, a question we had ahead of time: any friends or frenemies of yours, have they ever ended up in a book? And do you care to share?
Oh gosh, actually, tons and tons. Many of my friends have wound up in books. Enemies, not so much, just because people pay good charity money to wind up in one of my books to just die. So I'm not gonna give the time of day to anybody I don't care about. Forget that. But as far as friends of mine who have wound up in characters, dozens. Not even a joke. I draw from that heavily, and I usually change the names. Usually, sometimes I don't. But yeah, I've actually had several show up in books. I actually couldn't even tell you how many off the top of my head. But I enjoy doing that, actually. Usually I just use them as they are, too. A couple of them I've actually had to take them down a notch so they'd be believable for fiction.
You're not going to be a believable character. I've got to tone you down just a teeny bit.
Yeah. If you've read Dead 6, there's a character, one of the mercenaries is a guy named Taylor. Okay, so you've read Dead 6, Walt knows. There's a character named Taylor, right? Taylor is a real-life mercenary, a guy I've known for a long time, a guy Mike Cooper he's known for a long time. And we took his character down a notch to make him more plausible to readers. If I wrote this guy as he really was and his real-life resume and background, people would say, no, That's too far-fetched.
There's no way someone could be like this. All right.
He really is that. He is.
Leo because I think this was a question we had ahead of time, so I want to definitely make sure we hit this. What's good advice for not over technique explanation of weaponless fight scenes?
Oh, okay. Now this is a hard one to explain fast, but the main thing is, if you understand fighting stuff, it's really tempting to over-explain and to put too many details. But the thing is, the way you read is different than the way you process visual information. It's like if we watch a fight, we can record all the many different blows and moves and locks and twists and so on and so forth. If I wrote every single thing that happened in a fight, it would get really, really long. And remember, the goal is we want these guys to read this stuff and we want them to read it fast. If they start to read slow, and when they get to a fight scene, it actually screws them up. Because
makes
now
the fight seems slow.
I mean, Koki, because like I started rereading Dune because the movie's coming out, but like when they get to like the knife fight scene in Dune, it's like it gets really long. Okay, and if you're going for like I was talking about Louis L'Amour earlier, Louis L'Amour has a story as a boxing story where it's literally like, it's a 10,000 word story of just one boxing match, right? And he makes it work because that's what the story's about. But if I'm writing this fast-paced thriller-type action-y thing, and I get to the fight scene and I start describing every single move they make, all of a sudden on the page, that's going to be like super long, and the reader's going to start to skim because they want to get to the resolution. So what I'll do is I will condense it down. I will pull out anything that's extraneous. I will only describe what they need to do. Is like if they're one of those things where two guys are exchanging blows. I'm not going to describe every single strike that's thrown. I'm just going to say they're exchanging blows, or there was a series of hits. I mean, if they're wrestling, I'm not going to describe every single move. I'm just going to describe a few pertinent things and say that they say they rolled across the floor.
Let the reader fill in the blanks of all this.
And also, like a lot of the time, take the technical stuff out and throw the emotional stuff in, like what they're feeling. Like the physical pain, the exhaustion, the sweat in the eyes, the panting, the whatever, the taste of blood in your mouth. Get that visceral stuff in there. Don't get too hung up on the technical checklist stuff unless you are specifically writing for that. Condense the crap out of that. And that's really hard. That's really, really hard because a lot of stuff goes down really fast in an action sequence.
That's true.
Hope that helps.
All right. Rick Cutler, is there any place in any of the MHI series for a Kansas City team?
Very possible. I was just there recently, and they got asked the same question. It just depends, and I keep the actual MHI novels pretty loose as far as what other teams I deal with because that enables me in the future. So when I want to set a sequence in a town, I can decide if there's monster hunters there or not, depending on what I want to do. Now, that said, when you have a role-playing game, you got to document a lot more of this stuff. But as far as the crossover between the two, there is definitely a possibility for that. But will there be? I don't know. It just depends on when we show up. I've set Monster Hunter in all sorts of weird places. The one that just came out, we have a big sequence in Atlanta where I had already, established we had a team. But other ones, I had Northern Michigan where we did not. So it just kind of depends. So don't pin me down too hard.
Maybe. It's always good with a maybe. All right. Hickhamfield. Please, I said that right. Larry, what is your favorite firearm?
That's like asking me my favorite kid.
Top 3, top 5?
Okay, so my JP Enterprises Cazador, my LRP, JP LRP 308 is fantastic. Love that friggin' thing. My STI 4.15 TAC, which is my carry gun since 2012. Recently, I've been carrying a Beretta RDO LTT, the Langdon Tactical Custom Model, because I switched to Appendix, and I didn't like putting a 2-pound trigger single action 2011
aimed at your junk.
So I've been carrying an LTT RDO, which is fantastic. My Remington 870 I've had since I was 12 years old. Not BS, has a 6-figure round count. Yeah, I'm not. That is not That is not an exaggeration, actually, because it was my 3-gun loaner gun. I was a 3-gun match director for many years, and it was the loaner gun for the match. It still runs. I've replaced every pin, spring, every single little part of that gun has been replaced.
That's dope.
The only thing that's original is it's not even the original barrel. It's the receiver, the bolt, and the stock is all that's left from when I was 12. Oh, and trigger guard, because it's a metal trigger guard.
That's insane.
Yeah, that was my loaner gun for like 6 or 7 years, a 3-gun that I loaned to whoever showed up without a shotgun. And so and then also it was the Boy Scout gun. That was my Boy Scout clay pigeon gun. So I had a second barrel for it for clay pigeon. So so those are my favorites for personal reasons. And then a piece of crap. I have a piece of crap Ruger P90. That was my first gun that I bought myself.
That was my first gun too, the 45 ACP.
It's horrible. I got the 40. Yeah. It's even worse. It's a terrible gun. And it's broken, but I still have it. It's in the safe.
This is your first one. You gotta. I mean, come on now.
I finally got my Kimber 1911 ACP.
Oh, wow.
6 months ago. It's the most gorgeous gun I've ever held in my life.
They're very pretty. They're very pretty. Yeah, so I'm a bit of a nerd.
Yeah.
Really quick, because this is something that I, on my authoring dreams, would love to do with the series that takes off really well. Any plans to make it into any of your books into graphic novels?
No plans. I've actually over the years talked to a few different people who do that about doing that. But nothing's come to fruition. And it's not something that I personally have invested a lot of time in because it's not my wheelhouse. I don't have.
I definitely got to issue out for that stuff.
That's how I got started. And if I could just answer the question, it's not worth it unless there's a television property attached. Just straight up, none of these companies are interested in doing it. Of course, Larry, you've got a huge IP, but at the same time, that doesn't drive to graphic novels the way that television drives to graphic novels. And so it's not something, authors out there, it's not something you should really have your head focused on.
Yeah, so that's one of those. It's not my area. So should somebody come and make me a good offer and it was a good company,
that's right.
It's one of those. I can't really invest the bandwidth,
That makes sense.
Plus, they're expensive to produce too.
It's gotten worse. It's gotten way worse.
I know a lot of authors who spread themselves too thin, chasing all sorts of different media things that aren't in their author wheelhouse. And they tend, I actually looked at doing a children's book this year just for kicks with some of the Monster Hunter stuff. And so I got Jack, my marketing guy, and we actually looked into it. And we thought it'd be good because Jack's a really good artist, and he was going to. He's a professional artist. He's before he was a marketer, that's his background. And so we started looking at doing this, and we started looking into what we would have to do and what we would have to sell to make it worth it. And we came away no.
It's brutal. It's so brutal.
I did 3 kids books with my daughter just so that she could understand why I have to spend so much time doing what I do. And I told her after the 3rd one, sweetie, I am never doing another children's book with you. I just want you to know I can't do it anymore. So no.
Yeah. And so the farther we get from where we're anchored, it's the more I see. And the Hollywood's a big one. I've seen a lot of authors chase Hollywood. I've got 2 things optioned now, and I'm just going to cash the check. It's not my universe. I don't have the ability to get into that universe without spending a lot of time that I would otherwise be writing books. So I'm just going to keep writing books.
Right.
All right. So there's one last question in the chat if you have time.
Sure.
And then I'm going to cut it from there because I don't want to hold you up all day. All right.
Yeah,
Sir Brass asks.
Tonight's varsity football. Last night was JV.
Sir Brass asks, Larry, how's the Waffle Hund? We haven't heard about him in a while.
He's actually fine. I have the door closed, so he's not in. He's downstairs. No, I have a great dog. His name's Faust. He's adorable. I guess I haven't posted any Faust videos lately. He's just a good dog. He's a big, fluffy. He's 60 pounds now of Krasnovian fury.
Yes.
He's a poodle mix. He's like half poodle, half Australian Shepherd. And he got so he has poodle fur, but he has Australian Shepherd athleticism, which means that he just is a big bundle of stickers. He's more plant than dog on any given day during the summer.
That's awesome.
And it was funny too, because the reason we got a poodle mix is because I got really bad allergies, and I live in the country, right? And so I'm like, all right, if I have a dog, I can't have, I want a dog that doesn't shed. And so what do? We get a dog that's a poodle that picks up every sticker known to man. Stickers evolved to take advantage of this animal. And then he comes and just gives me love covered in allergens. So it's great. No, I'm a dog guy. I love my dog. So he's a good boy. Not a cat guy. I'm allergic to cats. Can't do cats.
All right. So I just scrolled down on our pre-made questions. Walt Robillard wanted to know ahead of time, what's the best way to throw your boss out the window?
You get him on the other side of a desk, and when he's down, when his neck is snapped, you push the desk. That way you have separation. Okay. But the key is getting the purchase on the carpet after you've lost your shoe because it's been bitten off. You got to think this stuff through.
Kill first.
This has made this day just worth it, because that's because how long ago was it that you wrote that? Got to be 10 years now, right?
Oh no, because the self-published version, I started writing that thing in 2006, and it came out. The banned version was 2009. Yeah, so no, I still remember that. That action sequence launched my career. Of course, I got that stuff memorized.
It was funny because I read that first chapter, and my boss came in and he's like, "Hey, we got to talk about tomorrow, because we were going to go be going up to some places over by the dam outside of Ramadi," and he's like, "Oh yeah, we got to talk about this because we got some problems that are lingering around." And I'm like, "Look, I just learned how to throw my boss out a window. You need to leave." So yeah, that was dope. That was definitely dope.
That opening line about chucking your boss out the window, that line is why I have a career. That one line, they talk about the importance of opening lines. That line is what launched my writing career, is because that people pick the book up, they read that first line, they're like, I want to buy this every time. And so there's a lot of stuff I'd go back and I'd change on my first book because I've learned a lot. I'm a lot better. It'd be a lot tighter now if I was to redo it, but I'd keep in that first line.
Oh yeah, opening first lines are definitely key. Absolutely.
That's a big one.
Alrighty, Steve, Walt, did you have any pertinent anything?
No, this was great. I was
absolutely awesome.
Absolutely thrilled to talk with you, and I'm going to say it's weird. I love your personality. It's fantastic, man. It's a joy, an absolute joy to talk to you. And so thanks for coming on.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
I got one thing I want to plug, if you guys will let me.
Hit it.
Absolutely.
So because I love giving writing advice, and people are always asking me writing stuff. I watched the writing advice podcast. It's just a writing podcast. We've recorded, the first 3 episodes are out now. It's called Writing Dojo, and it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, and like 10 different places. We've launched that. It's me and Steve Diamond. I'm the old guy, he's the new guy. It's just pure writing advice. We've recorded 14 episodes, and I've managed to stay apolitical and not swear.
Look at you.
14 episodes. We had to edit out a lot of stuff.
We managed to edit out all of the cursing. So now.
Yeah. But the first 3 are out. It's every Wednesday. So if anybody is interested, that is out there now. It's just pure writing advice. And it's just nuts and bolts business stuff.
Awesome.
I think we're one of the only writing podcasts, before we get into like any of like the creative stuff, we have an episode about doing your taxes.
Hey, there you go. That is an important headache that everyone needs to be aware of.
Well, cool.
All right,
Thanks,
so everyone out there, Writing Dojo, go check it out yesterday. Do it. Do the thing. All right. Larry, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us your time and your knowledge and all of your amazingness. You're just like this giant ball of awesome, and we appreciate having you on Keystroke Medium, The Writer's Journey. Everyone out there, if you've not hit the subscribe button, you should be like smashing it and dinging the bells and doing all the things and coming to Keystroke Medium on Facebook. I think we also have a Discord. I don't have a link for it, but we're on Discord, Keystroke Medium. Look us up, check us out. Also, Coffee and Concepts with the very own Walt Robillard is also on as well. And then, of course, Keystroke Medium Live, that I'm not sure what the days are because we're all like crazy busy these days, it seems. And there's lots going on. Lots for you out there, the audience. All right. For Steve Beaulieu, not Jamie Castle, and Walt Robillard, I am Kalene Williams. Thank you so much for joining us on today, Your Writer's Journey. Be sure to check us out next time. We're going to talk about more reading, writing, and everything in between right here in Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey. Peace out, you guys.
See you guys.